I'm going to show you how to change the air conditioner compressor on this 99 GMC Yukon. I have had quite the adventure trying to get the air conditioning working on this Yukon. It's all started with putting a block-off kit on the rear AC lines to block off the rear AC. I changed the accumulator, which is back on the firewall back there. I put a new one on, and I took it into the shop and had them evacuate the system and recharge it with R134A and some dye. And I had AC for a couple of weeks. It was doing great, and it quit. So I took it back into the shop, and they put a black light on the system, and the only place they found the leaks was on the compressor itself. You can see there's some green color around my fittings there. So the compressor needs to be replaced. Okay, before we do anything with this air compressor, we need to make sure that the system is completely empty. Now I know it's empty because before I picked it up from the shop, I asked them to evacuate all of the refrigerant out of the system. But if you're not sure, just take the caps off of the ports here. This is a stem pretty much just like your tires. You just push something in it, you can push that pin in, and there's nothing in the system. So we're good to go to take apart those fittings there on top. If you do have refrigerant in your system, you'll need to take it into a shop. They can pull all of it out either for free or do it for really cheap. Alright, now I need to get the belt off. I'm just going to push down on the pulley and move the belt off the compressor. GM did pretty good here by putting the compressor on top, so this one is really easy to get out. There are 4 half-inch bolts that need to come out, and then I've got a 15mm socket I'm going to put on this fitting here to pull that out. Then we've got this electrical connection right here that comes off, and this should be ready to come out. There's one more connector back here where I'm going to take that off, and then we're ready to go. Okay, now that's off, and it's out. I don't really know a whole lot about AC compressors, but I found that these compressors need refrigerant oil or lubrication to be able to function properly, and I found out that PAG oil is what they need. There's PAG 46, PAG 100, and PAG 150. This particular compressor from Advanced Auto Parts needs 150. It came in this box here. It's part number DW57950. This was about $180. It's a remanufactured air compressor. So these need oil. And I also I talked to the guy at the parts store, and he said that the Yukon with the rear air needs 11 ounces of PAG 150. Since the system's only functioning on front air and not rear air, because I blocked off the rear AC, it will only need 8 ounces then. I'm not actually going to put any oil in this. I'm going to let the shop do it. I'm going to put this on the truck, connect it all down, but I'm not going to connect the electrical system. I don't want the clutch to engage, which it wouldn't. I wouldn't think it would anyway, because there's no Freon in the system. There has to be a certain level of refrigerant in the system in order for the clutch to kick on. But just in case, I'm going to leave that disconnect. But first I want to see if there's any oil in here at all. So I'm going to pop this off. It's a 5/8 nut. Some compressors you can purchase with oil in it, already pre-filled. Some obviously then are dry, they don't have any oil in it at all. So I'm going to use this container and see if this has any oil in it at all. It doesn't seem like it. I'm going to turn the clutch. Nothing's coming out, so it's dry. I can look down in there and see there is some lubrication in there, but it's not enough to drain out. So, all right, now it's time to replace move this electrical connector to this one, to the new compressor. These little C-clips are holding each one of these in. I don't have a little C-clip remover tool. I ended up just using this little electrical probe that I had and just got into that little hole and picked them out that way. So I got both of these out. I highly recommend getting the actual tool to remove these because it'd be way easier than what I had to go through. I'm going to try to be real careful not to mash this thing down so I can get my connector back, my electrical connector back on it. You just got to pull it straight up. It pops out. There's no thread on it whatsoever. There's an O-ring there. Just need to seat it down in there. Alright, I've got the sensor cleaned off as best I could. I'm going to take just a little bit of this PAG oil just to kind of lubricate around the sensor here so it'll slide down in fine and have a good seal around the O-ring that's down in there. Just going to work it down in there, seat it around that O-ring. Okay, C-clip, and we'll get that down in there. Now it's time to put the compressor back on the truck. Alright, we'll just put the connector back on in the back, and we'll set this down on its 4 mounting areas where the bolts will go down. You want to check to see if there's any rock or rotation in the compressor. If it's not level, you may need to put a washer underneath it because we don't want this thing moving at all. So, like a shim or something. So we're going to put these 4 bolts down now. You want to make sure they go in finger tight and be careful not to cross thread the bolts. Alright, once your 4 bolts are in, you're going to go through and cross tighten them. That way it'll seat evenly. And just torque them down snug. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is clean this fitting off and get the old O-ring off of it. But I want to clean these fittings so we don't get any dirt or oil, grime or any kind of debris down inside the system. There's the old O-ring. Alright, now I've got the O-rings lubricated, so I'm going to stick it on the end of the fitting here. Like that. Stick the O-ring right on the end of the fitting. Slide it up and then set it down. Now we'll just tighten this down. Want to get it snug, that way that O-ring has a chance to seat and spread out just a little bit, and I don't want to over tighten it. That should do it. Alright, this was a really easy job. Toughest thing for me was swapping out the sensor in the back because I didn't have the C-clip tool, but it's on, everything's bolted down fine, and the fittings fit fine, the O-rings, everything went well. I'm not plugging in that harness in the front just because I don't want that compressor to kick on. It shouldn't. Take it into the shop, they'll evacuate the system, put some PAG oil in the compressor since it's dry for lubrication, and then throw in some R134A refrigerant, and this AC should be working, and hopefully be working for a long time. I'm done messing with this thing. Alright, I got the truck back in the shop. It's all charged up. It's blowing an ice cold AC. They were going to charge me $550 to replace the compressor and get the system recharged. I found that compressor for $180 and spent $70 to have the shop charge the system for me, so saved myself a lot of money. It certainly pays to do it yourself.